Was going on with the system. And here we go. Hopefully, we're going to be live here again. Hey guys, we're going to try this again. Can anybody hear us out there? If you can,
I hear you.
let me
Everything,
know.
everything is working on my end through my phone, through my
Uh,
computer, through everything.
Alrighty. Ike or Spank, if you guys are out there, or Debbie, can either any of you guys hear us okay? I don't have.
It's gonna
Got
take a
two
minute.
folks still. Huh?
It's gonna take a minute.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't see anything coming back on just yet. I'm just waiting to hear. I see two people in the chat line.
No data. Stream is healthy.
Okay, then we're just going to go with this, and hopefully, folks will hear us. I just sent Spanky a line. Hey, if you folks, if you can hear us, please send me a message to let me know whether or not we're getting across. We heard you before. We rebooted and everything, and we are back on the air. So back on the air with Indian River Hauntings. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat room here, and let me see. There we go. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Wish things had gone better after the last show, after I got home from the hospital, but I had a bit of a reoccurrence and wasn't quite as ready to go back on as I was. So I don't want to dwell on it, but I'm sure happy to be back now. Oh, somebody just answered here. Let me see who that is. Dan Squatch has apparently gone deaf. Dan's not hearing it either.
Dan, can you hear us now? I mean, to be honest, if they can't hear you now, I really don't know what's going on because I went through everything, even in the past stuff from the beginning that kept people from hearing you before. I checked all that.
Okay.
I checked everything. I don't know what's going on if no one can hear us. They could probably hear me, but like I said, I'm watching it on my phone.
I got you.
Like
I
it
got you.
like becoming when I watch it through my phone, it's like watching it like a somebody from the outside, and you're coming in
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. Ryan is louder, but Dan, can you hear me at all? Barely hear you. He barely hears me. I don't know what's wrong. Let me just check something. Go to my settings. Boy, this is a great return, huh?
I don't know what's
Setting.
going on.
Well, apologize to everybody for me, will you? Tell them I feel bad. But I unfortunately can't help it. Would you do that for me?
Yeah. Hold on, I'm trying something. Let's try it. Yeah, you're all the way up.
Isn't this similar to the problem we had once before?
Yeah, but
Where we couldn't.
I checked that.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, Dan's being silly right now. If he holds it up right to the ear, he can hear me. The wireless headset is working. Let me just check something here. Oh, I think I may have seen. No, the headset's working.
I can barely hear you
Test it.
now, which I don't
I
know why.
everything's working. Everything is showing on the computer here that the headphones are working. The speakers, microphone's working on my end. So I don't know what the problem is.
That's gonna be.
being silly, Dan. I thought you when you.
I don't know. I truly don't know.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you can hear me at all, I don't know what to say. We've rebooted twice. Our computers seem to be working fine. They're not malfunctioning, at least from what we can tell. I'm not sure why you're not hearing us. I'm very disappointed. Is your um, I no, I if you'll notice, see this, I just plugged it back in. It is wireless, but I plugged it in just in case that was the problem. Let me check one other thing. Hold on. Can anybody hear me any better? Coronavirus in my microphone, says Dan Squatch. Um, Anybody? Can you guys hear me any better? I don't want to waste any of your time out there as we fiddle with all this. Last time, anybody hear me any better? Say something, Ryan.
Hello.
Oh wow, I've got it up way too high now. I'm in my own ear. I'm gonna test me again, Ryan. Oh, okay, that's how that goes down. All right, 70%. Corona. Dan says coronavirus got to the microphone. He's right. All right, folks. Can you still hear me,
Hey,
Ryan?
hey, you're better on my phone, on my zone now.
Okay. Okay. Dan said, how well can you hear me, Dan? And you can text me if it's quicker.
Just kidding.
Say
Just went
what?
down again. I don't know what's going on. It seems like everything's echoing.
Yeah, everything is going haywire tonight, folks.
Like nothing is.
Dan says I'm still low. Well, for those of you guys that are kind enough to stay with us as we try to figure out what this technical issue is, let me just. Nope, that's not it. Everything on my end, Ryan, seems to be working fine,
Mine too.
but nobody else can hear us, or nobody can hear me. I'm at a loss, folks. I'll tell you what we're going to do, and it's a shame because I had a really nice beer to share with you guys tonight. Um, do you have any other suggestions, Ryan?
I'm just checking everything I can.
Does that make a difference?
What?
I just pulled the plug out of my microphone. Did that make any difference at all?
Hold on, let me check. Um,
No, Dan. Chris is not on. We can't find him for some reason. He's active, but he's not able to connect with us. So
it does not make a difference.
what'd you say, Ryan?
It does not make a difference. You are super low,
Uh huh.
and I am. I mean, my volume, I can do everything I can. Here's what I want you to do.
All right.
I want you to go down to the bottom, and I want you to go to the search bar for your computer.
All right.
And I want you to type in Realtek, REALTEK, and something should pop up like Realtek HD Audio Manager, something like that.
So am I going on the internet?
No, does that pop up?
You're not. I'm not quite sure where to look, Ryan. I'm sorry.
It should
Oh.
the search bar on your computer. It's not on Google or anything. If you like go hit home on the computer and the search bar should be there.
Type here, search. What am I typing again?
Realtek, REALTEK.
Tech. I see it. Audio console. Okay.
Hit that.
I did.
And what pops up?
Speakers, which is halfway up. Microphone array, which is in the middle.
Jack up the mic.
Microphone array. Jacking it up now. Okay, it's at 100%. Anybody hear me now? We did reboot the computers, Dan. Can you guys hear me now? How do you hear me, Ryan? Any better? Hello?
Hold on. All right. You sound fine.
Oh,
We just gotta see if everyone else can hear you.
Dan says it's the same.
Then I don't know what to say. Because that's the only option is doing what I do on your end. And that's the only thing you can do. So I'm at a complete loss.
Okay, well, omnidirection mode for VR. Let's try this just for the heck of it. How about now? How do you hear me now? Any difference? Hello?
Hold on. Same.
Same? Folks, we are obviously experiencing some sort of technical difficulty we don't understand. Hopefully you guys can hear me with that. I don't want to hold you guys up from your evenings any longer than I have to. Hold on, I'm going to replug this in. So it's almost like somebody out there does not want this show to go on the road. What we will do, folks, and I'm very, very sorry. I don't know what the situation is, but we can't even get Chris on the line for some reason. His line is active. In fact, I'm looking at him right now. He is up, but he can't get through to us for some reason. Um, so we don't know if it's something in the overall Skype system that we're using or not. So with that, we're gonna try it again next week. I don't know what else to tell you. I hope that you guys can hang with us and not get frustrated as I am right now. And join us next week. We'll try and figure out what the problems are. Ryan, you got anything you want to add, pal?
I'll try to look into it more as best I can. I mean, I'm sorry. If this is my fault, I'm sorry, but I have looked at literally everything I can to figure it out. So I'm sorry to everybody watching. I really am.
Well, somehow Chris isn't able to get on either. So there's something funky going on
Chris can't get on. The audio isn't working. It's just like some higher power just doesn't want this to happen, and I just don't
Tonight.
understand tonight. Yeah, because like I said, I look on my phone. I watch the YouTube live stream from my phone, and if it comes through my phone, it's like watching it like everyone else.
But nobody else is hearing it.
Exactly,
So that's weird.
which is weird. I know.
Hmm. Anybody else out there before we call this a game? Anybody else got a suggestion for us? I know there's still four of you that are bravely hanging in there while we sit here making fools out of ourselves. Has anybody got any suggestions for us?
We do that on a daily basis, though.
Yeah, we do, don't we? We don't. I will tell you this one hint. My favorite piece of equipment right here, the EDI Plus. If you're going to get a piece of equipment, that's the one to get because it barometric pressure, humidity, temperature, geophone, all recorded with an SD card right there.
Not a fan of the geophone. I never was.
You know, well, but this thing records everything. Dan Squatch says he forgives us. Um, I think your headset is malfunctioning. Yeah, I would agree with you, Ike, but how come Ryan can hear me fine?
I
That's
can,
what I don't
yeah,
understand.
I can hear you perfectly fine. And like I said,
Yeah, other,
all of our other live streams have worked perfectly fine. Once we figure from the at the very beginning, we had issues, but we figured it out after like the second one. And then after
right.
that, everything was fine until today. And we're on episode
Yeah,
21.
I know, and we're gonna have to postpone episode 21 until we get this figured out. But I agree with you. I would up front agree that my headphones are malfunctioning, but Ryan hears me fine, so I don't know.
That's
And
the weird part.
we can't. Yeah, that is the weird part. If it was malfunctioning, Ryan, you shouldn't be able to hear me either.
I know.
So, all right, guys, I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I know Dan. I don't know if Spanky's on there. I don't know who else is is out there. And if you can hear me, please accept my apologies. I'm not sure what the heck is going on. So, with that, we're going to call it a night. We've given it about 25 minutes worth of messing around. If you can,
Please still love us.
yes, still us. Oh, huh.
Is it a full
Hold
moon
on for a
today?
minute. I just heard from Chris. Hang on a second. Chris did not change time with us. That's the problem, I think. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Let's try to see if we can't get a hold of Chris then.
It could, yeah, it could be Skype. Skype.
Cancel. All right, let's go back to Ryan. All right. Add Chris. We may get this show on the road yet because you guys don't have to listen to me. You can just listen to Chris. Chris, are you there? It's calling. And we still got four people hanging with us. You guys are loyal. Chris, are you there?
Uh-oh. 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 He's there. He's there.
You
Yeah,
decided you decided to kick off an hour early.
no, our time changed. I didn't realize you didn't know that. Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I'm here. You hearing me?
I hear you fine, but is my volume okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Hold on,
You're
let me
fine.
check it again then.
Nobody else can hear me.
Oh right. No, you're fine.
Okay. Okay, guys, we got. I think your headset is possessed. Yeah, Commanding Judge Dredd just bailed. Oh, Dan, are you saying you can hear me now?
It's I mean, you guys sound fine to me.
Nobody's been able to hear me, Chris.
It's because of Chris. Everyone can hear you now.
Oh yeah.
It's literally because of Chris.
Yeah.
Ike just said your volume came up.
Chris,
You see, you just need me around. That's what it is.
it is. Yeah. Wow. Okay, guys. Man, this has been really embarrassing because for a half an hour we've been trying to get this thing going. Our time changed here, and I didn't know that. I guess I should have made sure you knew that. It's
No.
okay.
No.
Hey, that's good
Oh.
for you. That means it's now earlier for you to start now.
Yeah, but fairly soon it's going to change for us. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway,
Down
hey
low.
guys, I'm glad you can all hear me. Whoa. I don't know why you coming on, Chris, changed everything, but it did.
Oh
So
well.
I could, but now down low again.
Oh well.
I don't understand. Okay, we're just gonna have to run with this, Chris, and see if anybody can hear us. I'm gonna put
Yeah, you
this
guys are
the
low again on my end now.
really.
Yeah, like really low, like it was in the beginning.
Something really.
You're coming through absolutely clear. No
Yeah, I
problems.
know.
Both of you. I can hear you clear as well, Ryan.
Chris again.
Try that. I'm gonna be super loud though, so I'm gonna like not talk as much.
Yeah, but the problem is Chris can hear me, you can hear me,
Let me
nobody else.
let me try this. Start just talk, my
All
friends.
right.
Talk.
Okay. First of all, Chris, how are you, buddy?
Tired, tired,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
slightly out of it because I'm sort of thought. Well, I just had 2 hours sleep, so I do
So
that
you,
because it's going to be a 12 till one's a late one, and then I can't probably won't sleep after that. So
uh,
I get a couple of hours sleep, and yeah, and I'm up and running. So
uh,
I'm not really awake yet.
yeah. This night has started off as a disaster for all of us. But I got a bunch of my equipment here. First, I want to welcome everybody. I don't know if you can hear me, but hopefully you can hear um, Chris, and then Chris can kind of tell you how he feels about things, and you can totally ignore me then, guys. How's
Oh,
that sound?
we always do. Don't worry about it.
so,
Oh, ha, 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 ha. Yes,
but
and
I
I
do.
know, as
I,
if I ever would.
yeah, I think you're gonna forego the beer challenge tonight since nobody can hear us.
You shouldn't be drinking it.
Probably not, but I
You
was going.
shouldn't. You should have the cranberry juice, not the beer.
Okay.
Beer is no good for you at the moment.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put it off because tonight kind of got screwed up anyway. This should effectively screw up everybody
I fixed
listening
it.
to this show. What's the problem?
Basically, what happened was I checked everything like I did beforehand. Then Chris came on. Then all the settings went down again, and then I brought it back up. Now I can hear you. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, since Chris came on, everything started working again because I went when it was just you and me. I went onto the Real Tech sound
Okay.
thing. I buffed everything up, and they still couldn't hear us. Chris
Okay.
came back on. I went back on Real Tech, buffed everything up again, and now they can hear us.
Okay. Then let's get this show on the road, guys. I think Larry moving around is affecting the sound. Judge Dredd comes in, clears it. Crystal looks like we're back in service, or 10-8, as we say in my business.
10-8.
So
What's 10-8 mean?
10-8 means back in service. There we
Oh
go.
right. So
There we go, Ike. You said,
some
well, beer is always good. This, okay, Ike has talked me into it. I may have to have some beer, or at least show this off. This is one of I want to give a shout out not only to Ike, our good friend Ike. There's commanding Judge Dredd, but Ike out there with the IDK Paranormal.
you're gonna have to call him Paul.
Paul. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
call. I'll,
Who's Paul? All I see is Judge Dredd. All I,
That's
yeah,
that's
all I
Paul.
see is Sylvester Stallone.
No, 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 no. Definitely not. No, that was the terrible version.
Well, for the sake of time, I'm going to do the Paradolia slow paddle porter next week because we got to get on with the show tonight anyway, and we got behind. But I do want to give Ike, my good friend Ike Enzi, a shout out there in New Mexico. He is always putting on a great show. Just put on an excellent show. You just put on with your EVPs just the other day. I listened to it all today, Ike, and it was really excellent. Want to say hi to our folks at Paradolia Brewery. Paradolia is not just a brewery, but it is a terrific place to have fun, and it is haunted as hell. And we've done 2 investigations there and have gotten some good stuff. So hi to Pete and all our friends at Paradolia Brewery, and of course um, Nikki and everybody, Nikki and uh, my mind just went blank. Oh, she's gonna kill me.
Oh, it's old age.
It is old age.
It's
Everybody
old
at Bill
age.
Buck Dowsing. Oh, that's embarrassing. Um, anyway, we're gonna get on with the show. We're gonna talk about equipment tonight, and this is an area where the good Mr. Chris Huff and I really have some differences on, but we'd really like to hear what you are going to. Equipment is what I need to gather evidence.
Yeah. Are you actually getting me on the image over there? I can't
Yeah,
actually see
You're
myself.
fine.
So
yeah, I got you. I got you. You're on.
how's that? Any better?
Oh God, unfortunately, yes.
Oh, all right then. There you go.
So
Right.
anyway,
Um, equipment. Like everyone else in the field, I started off by swallowing the gobbledygook. You've
Uh-huh.
got to have this, you've got to have that, you've got to have this, you've got to have it. These days, I'm lucky if I even take that, just my camera.
Hmm.
Sorry, you can't now see that, can you? So
Now we
I'm
see
gonna
it
have
now.
to.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. That's all the equipment I usually use. Full stop. That I can take videos on that as well.
Uh-huh.
So that's it. If I remember to turn it on, you'll get photos and a video. And I'll record EVPs on that. And that is the best thing I've recorded EVPs on. And that's it. That's my equipment that I use. Full stop. Um, However, if I'm taking people round places, they haven't got a clue of who I'm talking to, what I'm doing, why I'm walking into a certain part and talking to someone or other. So I've got a variety of other things which come into play, so they've got something to see. So we'll start off with the EMF detectors because everyone starts with them. So, and I dare say I've seen you use the K2.
I think, well, I did when I came over, I had a millimeter.
You've got a millimeter.
Right.
I can't afford one of them anyway. So
Well, Ryan, did we take a K2 to England?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, I know we took the Mel, but I can't remember if we took a K2 or not.
anyway, out of all of these, I have one of those, which is a sapphire. Which can you see that one from there? Yeah, that's about 25 years old. Um,
That's an EMF detector?
yeah, but it's not very sensitive. So that's useful in itself. It's not sensitive.
Okay.
There's a reason for that. Then it goes to a medium sensitive, which is one of those,
That's the K2.
which is the K2. That's medium sensitive.
Yeah.
That's not too bad. Now, ultra sensitive is that beast. It really is ultra sensitive.
It is. In fact, I've got one of those and I very rarely use it.
It's very sensitive. But this is going to illustrate a point for me that you see people with these, that thing, walking around and they're jabbing it into places and they're walking around and shaking it all around and suddenly they'll get a reading. Unfortunately, as this will prove, if it's moved around, you can get a false reading.
Well, I think that's an important part about any EMF detector, particularly the K2 and that ghost meter. Now, we will use them and we will move in a very deliberate fashion doing a sweep of a room, which is part of our team's
But
protocol.
you know what I mean about people jabbing it into
Oh, yeah.
things
Well, whenever
and
you do
they're
this,
carrying it upstairs.
see, whenever you move it like that, that's what happens.
Yeah.
It
But
does it.
if I can just demonstrate something else though, you often get the skeptic saying, "Oh well, you're getting the reading because two EMF detectors are close to each other, not moving, nothing.
Mhm.
They don't interact.
I agree.
They just do that." So when somebody says, "Oh well, you're only getting that reading because somebody else has come too close with another EMF detector," that's rubbish.
Well, these EMF detectors don't emit enough to charge another one. So I totally agree with you there.
However, if I really want to be serious about things, I pull out that, which is a tri-field meter.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you want to
Yeah.
be serious, you've got to put that to some and leave it. If you get a reading on that, that really is gonna tell you about it. As you know, if it starts screaming, you can hear it in the next county. So,
Hmm.
but that's the beast to have, and that is the most expensive beast that you'll ever bloody buy.
It is without a question considered to be the gold standard. They now make
Yeah,
the tri-field in digital. I've seen that, but I prefer the original
I
makeup.
rather like that. It's
I,
robust.
yeah,
Um,
it is.
Everything about it is robust. It's got a good dial on it. You can see it. Um, but it's not illuminated. So of course, then you need another piece of equipment, which is just something damn simple called well, which needs
You call it
batteries,
you call it
a
a
torch.
torch.
It's a
Yeah, we call
torch.
them flashlights.
Except that's got a fitting on the bottom, if you can see, and it will actually go on the camera as well, or the camcorder, or whatever you want. So that's useful. Getting still onto torches when I'm actually in the field,
Well,
I don't use
we
white light.
I don't want to leave EMF detectors just yet.
All right. Okay. Go on.
All right, because I want to bring this out. I've got a pair of these, and I find these to be dynamite. These are the REM pods.
Right.
Um, and what they do is they detect. They do a couple things. Well, actually, this is not as much an EMF detector as it is detecting things that come into the field. And this is a really, really nice piece of equipment that if you put down in a spot, you can catch movement or things coming up
Mm-hmm.
to it. So I just wanted to make mention of this guy really quick. It's not an EMF detector like a K2, but it's a very, very nice piece of equipment. But go on with your torch.
Well, no. If you're going there, I'll also mention that I used to have um, an old bear, an old teddy bear, with which I'd converted, putting EMF detectors in various parts.
You mean like
Yeah,
that?
that's exactly it. Yeah.
This is called Boo Buddy.
So you've got exactly the same. You've got EMF detectors in there.
It's got a trigger gauge, an EMF detector. We use
Yeah.
this as a trigger object. Teddy bears start talking. Ooh, that tickles. Sounds creepy as hell, but it is a great trigger object,
It's
and it has all
exactly
kinds of.
what is needed. You see, I mean, we're going off into something else slightly now, but it's an excellent trigger object. What you see is people will get there and they'll put a cross down, or they'll put a key down, or something inanimate. And who's interested? But if you've got a child in the place, you put a teddy bear down, they're going to go and I'm not too keen on balls. They can roll just
I'll
on
give
their
you
own.
that.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But maybe some sort of toy. I guess is what I was
A
getting
toy
at.
is a teddy bear is absolutely perfect, and I've had what I had good results until one public event that I know it's very rare that I do them, but I did one and came back and there was no bear there. Somebody decided they wanted it. That was the problem.
Ah, that's interesting.
Some
Other
some people just take things.
other trigger. Oh, so it wasn't a spiritual
No,
theft. Oh
no,
yeah.
no, 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 no. I mean, I've had a few pieces of equipment just
Oh yeah.
disappear on me.
We all have. We all
It,
have.
I don't understand the light fingeredness of some people, but never mind. So I mean, I'd never do it. But hey, it's me. Um, slightly over as well. We've got come out one of those, which
Oh,
is a
motion detector.
motion detector, which
Hmm.
has no batteries in, of course, because otherwise it just goes off on its own.
Yeah.
With a remote control trigger,
Hmm.
so you can reset it and walk away from it and turn it on. Um, that's very useful. Make sure the batteries work. I've had some good results with that. In that
Now,
we've been locked in a room with this out in the corridor, and this has sounded.
now let me ask you a question then. I have my own thoughts on it, but why do you think? Isn't a motion detector designed to detect something solid moving in front of it?
Anything that moves in front of it, which obscures the beam. It's
Therefore, solid.
not necessarily solid, but enough to obscure the beam.
Opaque. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we've had luck with shadows ourselves. I know one. In fact, Ryan, your favorite piece of equipment is what? Is Ryan there? Ryan disappeared.
It's it's a cup of coffee, I think.
A cup of coffee. Ryan's favorite piece of equipment is the laser grid, and
Ah!
he's there. He is.
My there's some my mic is like broken, so it like go up, and if I try to put it down, it like jams, so I have to like work on it to get it down. And
Okay.
sorry,
Yeah.
physical issue, but we're okay.
Okay. But Ryan, tell us about your laser grid.
Oh, the laser grid's awesome. It's like one of those. It's one of those high density laser pointers that you like point at airplanes, which you shouldn't do because it's illegal. Um, but what it does instead
As I
of like
said, one of
send
those.
if you instead of
Same with
sending
you.
one point, it will send like 100 by 100 grid, and you can like twist the knob of it to make that grid into like more fine or more detailed or whatever, and then it captures any type of shadow that goes by it.
Yeah, he was just showing. Chris just showed us his, which is the exact same one that we use also, and that's a great thing for shadows. And Ryan's actually had some good luck with that. Um, and we also use trap cameras, but that's kind of a different subject. What are we looking for there, Christopher?
I'm
Hey,
showing you
guy.
something else. Something else that is.
Uh-huh.
It's reminded me that this is the basic that you do need. That's a box of spare batteries.
Oh my! I've got a whole ammo case full of batteries.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the box of spare batteries. It's got almost everything in there that you can imagine. Because without fail, you get to a place and a battery's going to fail.
Hmm.
I've got one site here, Eggleston, which when you come over, I'm going to try and get you to come over to. Without fail, the batteries drain. You walk onto the site, the batteries drain. So you just need a great big box of spare batteries. And I nearly forgot about that, but that's
Yeah, I spent. I just did my taxes, right? I spent over $500 on just batteries
ouch.
last year, just to
And
keep us
linked
in
to
battery.
that is one of those. If you can see that,
Okay.
that's a battery pack. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that,
For
but
that is useful for
oh,
a video camera.
oh yeah, I've got one also. We've started to use this is
Yeah.
for Patriots, but here's the cool part. This is a solar panel, so I can
Right.
actually sit this out in the sun and also recharge it too.
Ah,
So
that's
same.
the problem here, isn't it? We don't get sun.
Yeah, so battery packs are very, very important. Dan,
Batteries.
Dan Squatch is mentioning baby monitors work well for sound, and I would agree with that. We've all heard of things being caught on baby monitors. That's very true, Danny. Um, and got
We've tried one in the past. Yes, it
uh,
worked. Somebody nicked it. So
uh, nicked is
he's
English for
taken it.
stolen. Yeah.
Stolen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something else which somebody decided they wanted far more than I did.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it happens. I'm afraid it happens. So right. So that's this. This is something you probably haven't seen. One of those. It's an ultrasonic detector.
Ultrasonic detector.
Yeah.
Okay. How does
It
that work?
actually it picks up on ultrasonic signals. No battery. I don't leave batteries in because they tend to leak and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, just a single out. You can either put a doubler in and you can listen to it, or I just record to whatever I'm recording on,
When you
and
say
that's just
ultras,
another. That's just it's like bats squeaking ultrasound.
okay,
So it's just listening to another frequency.
frequency. So I would have to ask you: is that ultra low frequency? Do you know what
Ultra high,
frequency? Ultra
ultra
high.
high. hmm
Okay.
Ultra high frequency. It's I've not really had a lot of um, value out of it.
Well,
I've not really had a lot of value out of this either. And that's a twin raw dive circuit which just plugs in, and a microphone goes in the top. And you've heard of Constantine raw dive? Started the whole EVP
oh,
thing off.
Rodiva Jorgensen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's a twin raw dive circuit in there. So sometimes I plug that in and see what happens.
Hey, just some FYI, Spanky just came up and said on a scale of 1 through 10, you guys are point 0.5 on sound. So are we still down,
What?
right?
Everyone else seems. I mean, how everyone else is acting, it seems fine.
Well, no, I haven't actually. Paul came on 7:31. Danny came
Nobody's
on at
said
7:40.
anything. That's the
Hey
first.
guys, can you give us a sound check real quick? Anybody? Because if people are straining to hear this, I don't want to. I want them to enjoy the show, not have to strain to hear it.
Did it force you down again? I swear I'm going to throw this computer in the lake. I'm gonna throw this computer in the lake.
Why did it
Hello.
put us down? Did
You're
it put us
fine
down
now. You
again?
should be fine now, but it's forcing itself down.
This is the problem we had when we started a few weeks ago.
Yeah, but just keep going. I'll make sure I check it. It's
Yeah,
fine now.
and I can't believe 8 folks are still with us. I appreciate. I can only hear you because I have my noise canceling earphones on. Paul says he can hear us fine. Have you heard us fine the whole time, Paul? Ouch. I guess we have. We heard his ears. So the strange part about this, and this kind of goes into the whole frequency at now? Spanky says we're perfect now.
Right.
Brian, just keep an eye on that, okay, bro?
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, um, ultrasound frequencies. Now, getting back to that a second, ultra low frequencies are said to be the only radio frequency that can penetrate a Faraday cage. They
Mhm.
did those. They did those experiments during the time of remote viewing and remote listening, and they put people in a Faraday cage, and they found that ultra low frequencies could actually penetrate it. Um, so that's why I was asking if it was ultra high or ultra
Now
low.
we're going off onto another one here,
A whole,
which
whole nother, yeah.
sorry, well, um, needs to be brought out. I did an experiment with a spirit box, the PSB7, and a recorder with the PSB7 in a makeshift Faraday cage. Yeah,
Okay.
you know the taking out radio signal, etc.
Right.
All I was getting in communication from the session that I had it in there was stop. I'm frightened. Stop this.
Remember you
Don't
telling me
like
this?
this. Sorry?
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah. All I was getting was very negative. Just stop. I don't like it. It hurts. I'm frightened. Blah, 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 blah. I took the thing out and it started behaving absolutely normally. I was getting normal communication. So the Faraday cage was just thrown straight into the rubbish bin. And I never ever used one.
But if you were actually getting communication in the Faraday cage,
But they didn't like it.
oh, I see what you're getting at. I see what you're getting at. Okay. So you think the fact that, that's interesting. That means somehow,
It's interfering with something. They did not like it.
okay,
Once
I
they
got what
started
you're saying.
saying it hurts, I'm frightened, things like this, that's it. It's gone. It's not my job to cause any pain, injury, fear to the other side whatsoever.
Well, let me just throw a curve and ask: do you think that they were specifically talking about the use of the Faraday cage, or could they be talking about something else?
Well,
I mean, you were listening. I didn't know.
it only came about when it was the things were in the Faraday cage.
Could
As I
you get
said, once the PSB7 and the recorder were out of the Faraday cage, it was back to normal.
and you were getting communication still?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I've always had communication. That's not the problem. It's just they didn't like it being in the Faraday cage.
What is your overall opinion of? Oh, Dan just brought something. Maybe they become the frequency when they speak.
They use frequent. They
Well,
use
of
now.
course they.
Sorry, we're going off into all tangents here.
Don't we always?
If you want good communication with spirits, you need vibration for them to manipulate.
Right.
So if you're actually talking to each other, walking around, you're creating vibrations within the atmosphere that they
Agreed.
can then manipulate into speech. If you're sitting there absolutely silently, there's nothing much there for them to convert into speech. So you're not going to get that many EVPs.
Okay. Now that's an interesting concept, especially if you're using the PS Spirit Box 7 or 11. But Dan's comment there, I actually find interesting. Maybe they become the frequency when they speak. Maybe that's why it caused them pain or it frightened them. I
don't
mean,
know.
that's an
I don't
interesting.
know.
It's an interesting comment.
Just we're coming back to questions that arise out of what we do.
Yeah.
Everything that we do opens up another question.
Yeah. But
So I can't. That's one of the things I
yeah.
can't answer. I can just report what's happened.
Yeah. I just think that's an interesting concept. You got the Spirit Box 7 and 11, which are the most common ones out here. I've got another one here that we use a little bit. This is built by Ghost Stop out of Kissimmee, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And the kind of interesting thing about this is it does essentially the same thing the 7 and the 11 does, but it has an SD card you can put in it. It's
Oh,
a
I like
mini
that.
SD card, and it records. See, you can then record your sessions right on the box here and take the SD card and put it in your computer into whatever you're using to analyze your voice. So this is a kind of cool little spirit box
Mm-hmm.
to use. I know Spanky, you've used it, but kind of interesting nonetheless. Ghost Stop, www.ghoststop.com. So
I mean,
Ghost Stop, check
while
it out.
while we're on them, for ages I used that one.
Yeah, that's where's my guy right here? Yep,
I
same
use
guy.
that. I find that the noise hurts me.
Oh God, the noise is annoying. There's no doubt.
It literally causes me migraines.
Really.
So I've stopped using that just about. That one's easier.
Now,
If you notice, it hasn't got that real high, powerful ouch hiss,
okay,
and that's easier to hear. Also, you can have one going forward and one going back at the same time.
that's
I
the
quite
best
like.
thing. It can.
And
It can.
you can vary the rates and God knows what. I mean, I never use FM. I only ever use AM.
Really, why is that?
Well, FM over here is packed with radio stations. AM has got nothing on.
That's true. AM is not very commonly used in Europe. I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Okay,
So
gotcha.
if you're getting something through on AM, the chances are it can't be radio.
Yep, that's a good point. Now, there has been some criticism on the 11. I've not used one, so I really have no comment either way. But have you had any problems with the SB11?
As in, what problems are you talking about?
Malfunctioning, malfunctioning, not working right, not easy to use. Anything about
It's
it?
dead simple. It's never malfunctioned. Um, the only thing that doesn't work is the temperature sensor on it, so you just don't use it. No, it's been a stalwart. You can just put it anywhere. It's robust. It stands up on its own. It's got good volume. It's got better volume than the 7.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I honestly believe that the world of instrumental transcommunication, EVPs, voices coming across computers or phones, I think that is the future. I think that's where we're going to get our big break eventually.
That's where we're going to get the evidence.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, now, right, okay, we've got something else then. How about one of these? No batteries in. Negative ion detector.
Interesting. Now, how would you use that?
Right. The first thing you've got to do is you see the little green thing here?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's got a lead which comes out and you earth it. What it's basically doing is detecting a static field. So you go along and you just blah blah blah, rather like your Mel meter. The REM pod you were talking about?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I usually use it. However, on one occasion, I was noticing some spirit walking around a haunted library, and I actually followed it across the room with this, and I'm talking walked about 10 feet across the room.
Okay.
So it does work. I've proved that it does work. But usually I just sit it down, and when it goes off, it goes beep, and the lights come up. So it's that simple.
Okay. What is the concept of how it works? Negative ions as
It's
compared
just
to EMF.
static.
Okay.
You're looking at static energy, static electricity, rather than electromagnetic.
Okay. So it detects static. Okay.
Just looking for different things. That's all.
So, hey, folks out there that are listening, we would sure like to hear what your favorite piece of equipment is. Ike, I think I know what yours is, but if you can, tell us what piece of equipment you like to take on an investigation, and if possible, why you like it, so we can make a quick mention of it. Here's something, Chris. Here's something This is something that Evan is terrific at, and we've had a lot of good work on, but it's also very controversial.
Dowsing rods.
Dowsing rods.
Oh, I'm a fair fan of them. I can't do them. They don't like me at all. But I've seen some remarkable sessions.
Evan is a genius with them, and what we really like to do is when he's using them and he's getting good contact with the other side, is having a Mel meter, a K2, or some other piece of equipment in the area also to kind of corroborate the activity.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Paul's liking the use of a simple EMF meter. He's had some really good responses from a red coat at the Culloden battlefield using an EMF detector. Which one do you like to use, Paul? Just out of curiosity. So anyway, yeah, I did like a lot of things. Even the old portals or the more modern versions of the spirit boxes, I didn't like until I saw them in use. Same thing with these guys. Once I saw them in use and I saw the amazing stuff that we got, super fantastic.
Mhm. I also like the way that you've got your rods have got a little grip thing that they
Yes.
freely rotate in.
These rods, by the way, are made by our friends at Doodlebug Dowsing, and they do put those little things, and they're made of I think these are made of copper. I'm not sure here, but copper. No, I think are brass, and they do rotate in there.
Yeah.
Now, Spanky, my experiment tech, has actually created a machine, or not a machine, but a stand that you can put them in, so they're not even being held by human hands to see if they move. The downside to that, Dan doesn't like the dowsing rods. Well, I don't like Bigfoot, Dan. Anyway, my only problem with that is, and Evan will agree, is sometimes he says he feels it. The other side uses energy through you to
Absolutely,
move the
yeah, absolutely. So, but it does need testing that you put it into a jig and see if it works.
So we've got the jig.
Let's face it. I've had things operate only. Skipton on Swale. If you've seen the video that I took on Skipton on Swale, it's a spirit box session at a old control tower at Skipton on RAF Skipton on Swale.
Seen it.
I tried 4 times to get that session to work, and the spirit box, or was it the recorder? I can't. It's either the spirit box or the recorder turned itself off after seconds on each 3 times until I held it. And when I physically held it, it went off and recorded for 5-10 minutes, no problem.
Well, and I think that is something that, and this is going to go into a comment that Ike just made a minute ago. I think it's oftentimes forgotten that our own energy can be an assist to the other side. Yeah. Ike's made a great comment here, and this is something we also forget. Sometimes your best piece of equipment is you.
That's and what how many times do I say
I know, you're always saying, and Ike's saying the same thing. My favorite, he says, is the hair on my arms and neck. Surprisingly accurate. Yeah. And I cannot disagree with that. Can't disagree with that at all.
You know, it's the most sensitive piece of equipment that you've got. It really is. All these pieces of equipment that we've got that we look at, etc., etc., etc. It can't make up for that walking around a place and feeling that you're being watched. It can't have that prickle on the skin. It can't the hairs on the neck.
I agree with you, and I certainly do agree with Ike, and I'm sure all of us feel that way. Here's my problem with that.
Go on, I'm trying to get something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how the best way to word this. My problem with that is it's not conclusive.
Nothing's and I know conclusive. I will actually argue that there is nothing in any scientific journal or scientific study which has proved that an EMF detector is picking up on a spirit.
Absolutely.
Full stop.
Absolutely agree.
Everything that we've got, somebody can come along and say, where's the scientific proof to say that this works?
And this is where you and I have our best arguments.
What I will say is, and I'll bring Ike in on this, how much did I know about your house, Ike? And what did I tell you?
Okay, I'll let you know when he answers. In the meantime, Paul, did your EMF detector look like this? Did it look like this? First or second, if you can think. So, Ike, yeah, go ahead and answer. I'm curious. I didn't know you did a reading in his house. That should be very interesting. Here's my issue with all this evidence, and I totally agree. And I'm frustrated with the fact that in the last 20 years, we've repackaged some things, but the equipment hasn't gotten any better.
It has got better in different ways. Okay. Different ways. It's sort of like 20 years ago, you're using a a camcorder with a cartridge in, a tape in,
Okay.
and it weighed 30 pounds, and you had to have 3 or 4 battery packs, which were like car batteries.
Usage way, I agree with you, but we've not come up with any new techniques. And I know I know how you feel about this one. I think Ike feels this way too. Is we're not going to be able to move forward until we find a way to conclusively collect evidence. And I absolutely am not going to live by the line. It can't be done.
It can't be done. It literally
I
can't
disagree.
be done.
Well, let me show you this one. I disagree. Never say never, but I'm going to show you this piece of equipment. And I showed it a little bit earlier, I think, before you came on. This is an EDI Plus. This is the type of stuff that I think is getting us in the right direction. This happens
Was
to
that
be,
what you used over here at Elvington?
I don't believe we brought the EDI with us.
Right. Okay.
I don't believe we did. I think it was just
that
the
Mel meter? Right.
The Mel. But what this little guy does here, it does some of the simple stuff. The blue lights here are EMF, but also it's just a range of EMF, so it's not super conclusive. Down below here, I'm going to turn it on just briefly. This is a geophone, which works really good for footsteps. Okay. You've got temperature right there, because we all know temperature, energy being pulled from the air by the spirits can drop the temperature. But up on top here are 3 lights that include not only temperature, ambient temperature, but barometric pressure and humidity. Now, the best part about this piece of equipment is you see that slot on the top right there? Can you see that?
Yeah, I got it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You put an SD card in there, and you set this in the corner of one of the rooms where you're investigating for the entire length of your investigation. And it records every change of temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, footsteps, EMF, the whole 9 yards. You take it out, you put it in your computer, and it graphs everything for the entire length of time that you've hit record. Now, why is that particularly good? Let's say you got an EVP at 10 o'clock. You go back and you find out at 10 o'clock where it was on your recording, and you notice at the same time you got an EVP, the barometric pressure changed, the humidity changed, maybe suddenly you got a vibration. That's collecting evidence. You now know that this particular event happened under these particular circumstances. That's the beginning of evidence. Now, is that totally conclusive? No. But if we can start getting things that can measure atmospheric or solar conditions at the time EVPs or dowsing rods are used, or whenever you make contact, I think that's significant. So much for my soapbox.
No, you keep going, because everybody has got to have an opinion on something. Everybody's got to have their own interpretation, and it's only by talking about it that we can actually start formulating something.
There you go. There you go. We're on the same wavelength there. Absolutely.
I mean, we might disagree violently because we're approaching it from different angles, but no, you know what I mean.
I know.
We've got our own little sacred chalices of what we believe and how we do things. But we've all got to start, what we need to do is get little groups going down the pub and having 15 pints each and talking about it. Because a neutral area with some alcohol, and you're going to get people talking. And it's wonderful.
And see, that's the key. You can have disagreements, but when you talk about it, you and I have a different opinion on collecting evidence. But we've already, just in this few minutes of talking, come up with an agreement on both our sides with the collection and use of evidence. Ike and I have done the same thing. By the way, he says, let's see, Chris told me something about my house from your last video, and he shouldn't have known he was spot on. God, does that mean I got to start believing you, Chris?
Yep, you have.
God,
you should know. You should know that. Prove that in the Golden Fleece to you.
Well, I'm kidding. I believe in you. And Paul, the thing that you use, the EMF detector, is called a K2 meter.
Yeah, he's got a K2. Most people have got K2s.
Yeah, that's probably the most common piece of equipment.
I like the K2. It's not too sensitive and it's not unsensitive. Mm-hmm. I've actually put this in Eggleston Abbey. You've got to come and see Eggleston Abbey. I've actually put this in an old fireplace. There is no electricity anywhere near this area. Full stop. Nothing. I've put it in an old fireplace, a huge fireplace there, and it went straight up to red. Held it for a couple of seconds, went down.
Yeah.
A couple of minutes later, straight up to red. I mean, I like it. I do like it. I don't like equipment. To tell you the truth, I don't like equipment because I take it with me and then forget to put it on. Because I'm so busy walking around doing what I'm doing that I forget. I just forget it's there.
Yeah, see that? Yes, I can totally understand, especially in your, because what you're focused on. But a guy like me that's as sensitive as a rock, that's my connection.
You're not that unsensitive. I've been, but you saw me at Elvington, and I'm sort of telling you, look, what's happening here. There's someone here, right next to me, and you got the millimeter out and did it. I can't do what I'm doing and then get a millimeter out and start jabbing it in, and I can't physically do it because I'm sort of saying, right, who are you? What you want? What you doing there? And why are you feeling cold? And blah 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 blah. And I'm getting all sorts of bollocks and getting it wrong most of the time. But
oh yes, yes. Ike just put a good. I was going to tell a quote. We were on a vessel that was being sunk as a reef, and I'm going to get to the millimeter and an SLS in a second. Ike, thanks for reminding me. But they had completely stripped this ship. They were going to sink it for a reef off our coast, and it was a former drug ship. And we got some strange stuff out of there. We now believe, based upon a K2 and our rods, there was not one piece of electronic equipment or wire on that boat. They totally stripped it to be sank as a reef. Our K2s were going nuts. It helped us understand that ship didn't just transport drugs, but it transported people. I mean, people for slavery, white slavery stuff. So cool stuff. Yeah, okay, let's get into, Ike brought this up, and thanks for bringing this up. The millimeter that we've been talking about. Interesting story behind the millimeter. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, Chris. The guy that developed this, his daughter had passed away, and he felt she was trying to communicate with him. He was an electrical engineer, so he created this device to facilitate that communication. And it's a very, very powerful, very sensitive but non-sensitive EMF detector, in that the K2 gives you fields of milligauss, which is the unit of measurement, right? This gives you exact milligauss. I don't know if you guys, I'm going to put up this so you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. See where it says 00? So you can get a tenth. Now you got to be careful with these. They've got to be calibrated, and they're fairly easy to do. You can get the calibration procedure on YouTube, but you got to keep it calibrated. And I don't get excited at anything 0.3 or below because it could be natural. But anything above 0.3 milligauss, I start to look at it. It also has a temperature gauge. So, and this little guy right here, the yellow thing on the top is the thermocup, the thermo.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was.
Yeah, this is what
I remember that from Elvington, and I was wondering what that yellow thing was. It's sort of it looks to me like sort of an electrical connector that you plug in, but it's been cut off.
Well, actually, you can. It comes out, right? And you plug it into the top, and
so it's like an aerial.
Yeah, for temperature. This is what gives you the temperature.
Yeah.
It also is its own REM pod, in that anything breaks the plane, it goes off. So this is I had this up in North Carolina a while ago, and I was using it in a cemetery up there. And as I was walking through the cemetery, I kept getting hits on this. So something was touching it. And I know this was just a happenstance, but the temperature came back as 66.6 degrees. So 666. But this is probably next to the EDI, this is my other go-to piece of equipment right here.
What did that go to when we did Elvington? Can you remember? I can't.
Oh yeah, it hit like 5 points or 6 points something. It was a heavy hit.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Anything over 1 is something I really take attention to.
Take advantage of, yes.
Yeah, poor choice of words. The SLS camera, Ike, I didn't get it out because SLS while using dowsing rods. I'm going to talk about SLS here in a second. Structured light system camera. This used to be an Xbox. You ever heard of the Xbox machines?
Yeah.
And it would literally project you and map you in a stick figure and project you as an avatar on your TV or wherever, right? Well, at some point, some people, I guess, started seeing other figures popping up and couldn't figure out why. And so, with some modification and things, this camera has now, and I wish I could have brought this over there because it's worked terrific for us. We'll take an investigation. We've got a pad, a notebook or pad on there, and it's attached to a battery pack, and it's attached to the Xbox piece of equipment, and it's all wired into the pad. And when you go into a room, you can move it around, and you can see if you got any stick figures coming up. The first time I saw it was in the what they call the Beyond Useless boutiques. It's an old house in Sebastian, Florida. This little figure was bouncing around Evan. I've seen it used a couple other times, but probably the two in Melbourne. It was actually in Cocoa, Florida, where we got a figure sitting on a chair just watching us. We were at a place called LaPorte Farms in here in Sebastian, Florida, and we were doing an investigation. Spanky, you'll remember this one. It was on a table, and this thing was laying down on the table. And when one of my investigators, Nikki Shreves to be exact, would reach her hand up, the item, the stick figure, would reach up its hand on request. Now, we did a benefit for the Historical Society a week ago last Saturday, and across the street from where we were at, we got a small child figure, and with both the rods and a millimeter, it was saying it was a child. At the same time, across the street, Evan had originally, in another investigation, had got a little kid saying mommy, and this time a little kid was saying seatbelt. Now, why is that significant? Because the child told us, based upon our equipment that we were seeing on this SLS camera, was that he didn't live there, he didn't play there, he was just stuck there. So now we're looking into traffic accidents where a child may have been there.
Yeah.
So, but the now Spanky talks about the SLS camera using dowsing rods. He's really good at this. He's very good with dowsing rods, and he will actually stand there and say, "Can you point?" And we did this last Saturday too. Actually, point the rods to where you're at. It does, and then we put the SLS camera on it, and we've gotten the figure sitting there.
Now, this is the next thing that I was going to ask, but I was being very polite. Have you coupled stuff together? So you're getting the stick figures coming out, but then you go and rush in and you put a K2 meter in, and you put a tri-field meter in, and you put temperature in, and
all the time.
Is it corroborating?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. I can't say that it does it 100% of the time. And I'm okay with that, because once again, we can start talking frequency and vibration. There just may be some differences there. I mean,
very much so.
So I don't get, but there's
very much so. Things happen on different frequencies and they affect different things.
Yeah. So, but yes, we have used dowsing rods with other pieces of equipment. They've cooperated. We've used the SLS camera, dowsing rods, and other pieces of equipment. And they have cooperated, and that's some pretty cool stuff.
Now, with dowsing rods, it's something that I like because they're cheap. Let's face it, compared with other bits that we've got here, they're cheap. They're dirt cheap.
Oh my God!
This is another experiment that we've tried in the past which really works, and it's based around a torch. If you've got very depleted batteries, you know, when the torch has gone from that nice white light to very dim orangey yellow, you know, I've got to change those batteries because I can't see 5 feet in front of me. Don't keep them as a reserve. Put them in your torch, leave your torch on, and then ask that they dim the torch. You know the principle of draining the battery.
Yeah.
If the batteries are very low in power, they'll drain it, and it will go down and it'll come back up. So you say, "Can you drain? Can you go near that?" Goes down. Can you step away? It comes back up.
Well, we do a similar experiment we call the flashlight experiment, and that's
exactly the same thing.
Yeah. But it'll actually turn them on and off.
You do need depleted batteries.
Well, you know what else we're doing with depleted batteries, and I've been working with Spanky on this, is I have a lot of my old batteries that I've taken out when I've replaced them, I've kept them, and we're using them during an investigation and using them almost as a power source for the other side to draw from, because they're not dead. Those batteries aren't all dead.
They've still got something.
Yeah.
Something's happening to the batteries when you walk into these sites and the batteries drain. Something's happening. So it's got to go somewhere.
Yep.
So yeah, why not? I mean, it's another thing to consider. I'm just thinking that this is bloody cheap. The cost of 2 batteries and a torch. That's one of the cheapest pieces of equipment that you'll ever buy.
I can't disagree. And I've got, our stable of equipment is pretty extensive, to be quite honest with you, and it costs a lot of money. Like I said, I spent $500 just on batteries last year.
Yeah.
So folks need to understand, sometimes your best equipment, as I so succinctly put it, is yourself, your own
yourself. And it costs nothing. Just cost the cost of you getting there.
Agreed. So
two things that I do use. Not only do I walk around with the camera on video mode, I've also got one of those.
Yep.
Which is a high definition video camera which goes to infrared.
Yeah. Yep. That's a necessity.
I've also got one of those which has been converted for full spectrum. I've had successes with this one. It's just the right equipment for the right time. That's all you can say.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, and you guys out there that are working, and I think this might be something to think about, especially, you did a really cool investigation at that old missile site base near where you're at, and I thought that was a really good episode that you did. But we use surveillance cameras for about $300. We bought surveillance cameras that are infrared. They've got a distance of a good 300 yards at night. We took the cameras, we mounted them on boards, and of course we got a DVR and everything else. I bought a fairly inexpensive TV screen, and then we set them up in rooms, and usually I sit at the command post and monitor them. Sometimes Dan does it, we switch off. But we have gotten some of our best pieces of evidence on that surveillance camera.
I keep seeing you looking at something, and I'm waiting for you to say something.
So. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. I just don't want anybody. When folks put stuff up, I want to make them. M18 just came up and said he's late. So good to see you, buddy. But we were at the place called LaPorte Farms. It's really like a kids' petting zoo and stuff. And we got. I think I talked about that. What? Oh, kids. Oh man. Give me your English humor. It's got animals that kids can go play with and pet, okay?
It's just kids petting zoo. I mean, you'd never get away with that over here.
Yeah, I know. I forget who I'm talking to here. But anyway, we did an investigation there based upon some other things that are going on. And we had a rod of light that was dancing all over, and we could not figure out where it came from. We determined it wasn't a cobweb, it wasn't ambient light from someplace else, and the camera got it. Another good thing we got on this surveillance camera was at a place called Rib City, a restaurant just north of us. And my gang is sitting there, they're talking, they're doing an EVP session, and right next to one of my investigators, this camera that was mounted and static caught a chair pulling out and pushing back in. So that's great, because you're catching things that people aren't necessarily focused on. So I find that as an excellent piece of equipment. And for those of you that are doing investigations and you've got an opportunity to set up cameras, Lorex, I got a nice system for like $298, 4 cameras, spend another $79 on a monitor. I mean, it's a great way to catch some evidence.
If you can afford it. Everything comes back to money.
True.
It really does. Now, while we're actually at that point, there's something that I want to bring in. And that's a methodology rather than an equipment piece. Okay. Which is, too often you'll get these investigation groups go in, and I'm not talking about the idiots running around saying, here, ghosty, 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 scream, scream, scream. Serious investigators, and they sit there like absolute lemons or bits of rock, doing nothing and just looking. And then they'll go home and nothing's happened. If you want something to happen, behave normally. Have a little group, talking quietly, just get about normal things, interacting normally, but have the session monitored
Oh,
with
it's
all
always got to be.
sorts of things.
It's got to be monitored. Yeah.
Excuse me. Bloody hell.
This is a bad time to be coughing, dude. I just got to tell you. I mean,
Chocolate. Activity happens. We're getting back to vibration and energy. Activity happens when there's energy around, vibration. Everyone's acting normally. There's vibration in the air, so you're going to get EVPs coming through. Things are going to move. The bear's going to go off on one. But just act normally. It's like I keep saying, if you're going to take an EVP session, don't walk in and just hold it out and say, what's your name? How old are you? Blah, blah, blah. When did you die? Oh, great.
oh, we do. That is
Just talk.
The question.
I always go in and I'll say, morning chaps, how are you? What you up to today? What's the weather like? What's the day? Anyone, if I'm on an old airfield, what's the food like on here? I've just been transferred in. Chatty. And
yeah, I can't disagree with that.
This is why I'm getting the results that I'm getting. Otherwise it's like a head teacher standing there saying, right, who said that? Which boy said this?
I generally agree with you. There are times, and we've had some tremendous success where we've got a group of folks sitting on the ground, and my guys are great. I got the best team in the world. No offense to anybody else out there, but I got the best team in the world. And these guys and gals know how to talk to the other side. One thing we never do, and this is just something to throw out to all of you out there, we never ask, "How did you die?"
No.
Because sometimes they don't know they died. Sometimes
Exactly.
sometimes they could be offended, so we just as a protocol in our team, we don't ask that question.
No.
But
however, so saying, one of the best EVPs that I've heard, and I didn't get it. This is someone else. It actually came back in, and there's a young boy sort of saying in sort of, a sort of teenager sort of voice, "I think I'm dead," and I just thought, wow, that's just wow. I think I'm dead.
As somebody with the gift, how would you respond to that?
I'd say yes, you are. You've passed. Okay. Why are you still here? Do you want help to move on? Because you don't know if they're just visiting, you're just wandering around. They just want to talk to some. Often they just want to talk to you.
Well, we have found that out ourselves. Billy in the school, you've heard the EVP.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sometimes Billy just wants to play with us, so I totally agree. Yeah. But somebody like me, if I was to get an EVP with somebody that said, I think I'm dead, I would think twice before I would carry on the conversation, because I know I can't pass him over. I don't have that talent.
Yes, you can. You just ask for someone to come through. Anybody can do it. It's called praying, but slightly differently. But all you do is you ask for someone to come through and take them on. Yeah. And something will happen, trust me. It does. You know, talking about Billy, if you're still going there next time.
We'll be there Saturday.
Can you take a red bicycle? Not, a kid's bike.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just looking to see if I got one. I'll see what I can do. Spanky, can you work on that one? If you're still listening.
It doesn't really have to be red. I mean, that's the color. That's what I saw. But a bicycle.
I'm going to tell you why that is significant, and I've never told you this. This is actually really cool. When Billy was first seen by the cleaning lady,
you have.
I did tell you about the bicycle. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think I told you that part of it.
Yeah, after I told you about the bicycle.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but the bicycle is an old-fashioned, no gears, just and red, and very old-fashioned. The boy himself is sort of what I'd call sort of poor 1920s-ish, short trousers, clumpy boots. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of not wealthy, not poor, but
okay.
Shiny trousers was the thing which I always said. Shiny trousers, where they're old and probably passed down. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, he quite clear. But bicycle, definitely bicycle.
See what we can do.
See what
And
happens.
yeah, we'll do that. And, we'll be there next Saturday. So when we all get together next Tuesday, and I promise, ladies and gentlemen, when we get together next Tuesday, the computer problems will be solved. All of you have been absolutely terrific sticking with us as we tried to figure this out. And we've had a really great conversation um, tonight. A lot of good comments from you guys out there. Uh, just really appreciate you being on. But we've been on. We've kind of overlapped our time, so we're going to say goodnight tonight.
Yep.
But we're going to be back now next week. Chris, are you guys? Is your time changing next week?
Don't think so. Hang on, I'll have to go and check this.
Because right now it's 8:30
Doesn't
here.
yeah, doesn't look like it. So it'll be 11 o'clock next week.
Yeah, so you'll be on an hour earlier next week.
Yeah, I'll be on an
I
hour
thought
earlier.
with all the computer problems we were having, I thought you couldn't get through because I saw that you were active. But anyway, we don't want to bore everybody with that conversation.
No, I was asleep. I was just trying to get, and then I woke up,
Yeah.
sort of saying, right, I've got half an hour, and then I'll be on air.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, dude.
No,
I
it's
should
all
have
right.
made sure you knew that. At any rate,
Now,
folks.
the last piece of equipment.
Last piece, okay.
That if you've got a ranging, if you've got 20 or so people, and you've got 2 or 3 sessions, you need those.
I disagree.
You need them. You really do. I mean,
Well, we use our phones, and I'll tell you
yeah.
why. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. The phones work better, cause us less interference on our equipment than the walkies. We've got walkies. I got a whole set of
Mhm.
walkies. We've stopped using them because sometimes they don't always they don't always go through walls the way we need, and we can't hear each other, and we have
But
problems.
you know why I'm saying that you need these. You have to be in communication with each other.
Yeah, we do. But we tend to use our phones, and there's problems with that too. I get it, but the phones are a little bit more reliable for us because we get on to we text each other, and
Right.
that's how we stay in contact. It tends to create less of a problem. Agree with your concept. We just don't like using the
Yeah.
walkies.
I mean, there's been times when Jedburgh Castle Jail, which is one of the ones which I was sort of saying, you've got to take your group there if you come over with a group.
Yep.
There was one group in Block A, one group in block. There's 3 blocks, arranged like the nuclear sign.
Right.
Yeah, with a central tower and then 3 wings going off. It's sort of like that nuclear sign. So one in one group, one in one wing, one in another wing, and we were down in the central tower. And there was this almighty clang as the old door slammed somewhere in the prison. So we were just getting through to each other saying, "Did you do that? Have you hit a door?" Or X, Y, and Z. Nobody had done anything. In fact, no doors had moved. It's just really was a bang, and you heard it right the way through the prison.
And we've had that happen too. And you're right; you've got to be able to communicate between groups. Dan, if you're still on, I don't know if you remember the Sexton property. Although we could yell to each other, we had the same issue in the barn. We had a door slammed shut, and then we thought it was each other. It wasn't. And we checked the inside, and there was no door in there. It was kind of a cool thing. So
you've got to be able to communicate with each other. That's all. That's the only point I'm raising. And so apart from that, that's sort of just about most of the equipment that needs discussing, I think.
Yeah, we covered most of it, folks. If you have anything else, send me a message on ghostguy59.com or gmail.com if you have any
I
comments.
forgot. Essential equipment.
Screwdrivers. We have a whole tool bag full of that stuff, and tape and all kinds of things.
It's no good having spare batteries if you have to unscrew screws to get the bloody batteries in.
We keep them in our battery bank. So,
but yeah, I mean, we're talking the same things. We've come along with the same problems that we've met up with, and we've got solutions too, and often the same solution has arisen.
Yes,
but I think most investigators come across the same problems.
Yep, we just got to come together collectively to collect the evidence, share the evidence, not keep this, sequestered within our groups.
It's not my evidence. This is what it comes down to.
I agree.
It's evidence, and it needs writing up, and it needs putting out there so everybody can see it.
It needs sharing, absolutely. Yeah. It does. So
that's a big problem.
And we're going to talk again about somehow procedures and kind of making procedures somewhat similar so that we can use our evidence. How am I saying this? We do it the same way. Our evidence is going to be more credible, I think. But that's a subject topic for a different time.
Ages and ages and ages ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, I wrote protocols
Uh-huh.
of how to do things. And no matter what I did, nobody was,
Well, that's
they,
what,
were, they all wanted to wander off and be narcissists and be on cameras and
I know.
run around and scream. And so I just thought, well, the lot of you, and went my own way.
We've got to come together as a field to put this together. But all right, buddy, I gotta run. We gotta say goodnight. Hang on just for a second so I can chat with you. But folks, we're gonna call it a night. But we're gonna be back next Tuesday. If you enjoyed the show, and Ryan, if you're still, are you still on, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey,
Well,
Ryan, thanks for doing this, man.
yeah. This is a pain in the butt. You did a good job tonight. I want you to stay on for a second too, Ryan, because I want to talk to you about some editing here. But be with us next week. We're going to talk some more, folks. Really appreciate you being here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell so that you can be notified every time there's new content up. We're back in the swing of things. We will continue to be on Tuesday nights. Just appreciate your loyalty and all of you being here. We've got a lot of work to do, and we want you guys to join us as we continue to expand the field. So thank you. Appreciate you being here. See you next Tuesday night. Chris, thank you. Ryan, thank you. And everybody else out there, thank you much. Take care, guys. Have a good night.